Superman Ultimate Flight is a Bolliger Mabillard flying coaster at the Six Flags parks. Located at Six Flags Over Georgia, Six Flags Great America, and Six Flags Great Adventure, these were some of the earliest flying coasters, and they are still some of the most popular attractions at their respective parks. But how does this layout stack up to the newer flyers? Find out in this review. After some smaller flying coasters were developed in the mid-1990s, Vekoma unveiled their Flying Dutchman model. The first would be Stealth at California's Great America in 2000, and then Vekoma built two more for the 2001 season, both for Six Flags parks. Six Flags Worlds of Adventure would receive X-Flight, while Six Flags America would receive Batwing. These flyers had exciting layouts, but there were three disadvantages to future flying coasters. One, riders spent more time on their back, which was a less exciting riding position. Two, the load procedure was cumbersome. Riders boarded the train sitting down, and then their vehicles lowered into the lie-down position before dispatching. 3. The electronics to raise and lower the trains were located on the trains themselves, subjecting them to extra stresses which caused downtime. Bolliger Mabillard debuted two flying coasters in 2002. The first was Air at Alton Towers. Just a month later, Superman Ultimate Flight opened at Six Flags Over Georgia. The latter would be the most well-received flying coaster yet. For one, Superman would spend more time letting guests actually fly. Riders were raised into the flying position in the station, and the only time guests would find themselves on their back would be during the inversions. 2. It was more comfortable. The B&M flyers are glass smooth, and I like the restraint design better. This ride's popularity prompted Six Flags to install two clones at Six Flags Great Adventure and Six Flags Great America in 2003. But these rides had three key differences from the prototype. First, Over Georgia's Superman had a dual load platform. This would allow three trains to operate simultaneously for maximum capacity. However, this ride regularly runs with just one or two trains, and to save money on staffing, the ride typically uses just one of the load platforms. Knowing this, Six Flags only put one load platform on the Superman clones at Great Adventure and Great America. 2. Over Georgia's Superman had a 7-car train, seating up to 28 riders. As a concession for losing the dual load platform of the later Supermans, the new clones had an 8-car train to seat an extra 4 riders per cycle. I don't find the extra car to make much of a difference in the ride experience, but extra capacity never hurts. 3. The layout was originally designed for Six Flags Over Georgia. At that park, it's a terrain coaster hugging the park's rolling hills and even diving underground at points. But at the other Six Flags parks, Superman was built on a flat parking lot. There also was a fourth Superman clone built at Happy Valley Beijing in China named Crystal Wing. I haven't ridden this version, but Crystal Wing may have the best setting as the coaster is built around a fake mountain similar to what you see on a Disney coaster. I think the Six Flags versions look pretty good. The red track and blue supports capture Superman's iconic colors, and the trains complement the track perfectly. And the version at Great Adventure looks particularly nice because it was recently repainted. Each one has a nice entrance archway, followed by a super long queue line. This queue line has 2D displays of Superman's most famous allies and villains, which is fun for comic book nerds such as myself. And that's the extent of all this ride's theming, which isn't too surprising for a Six Flags park. But for coaster fans, the best part about the wait is how the line is routed through the center of the coaster, offering some fun vantage points. No matter when you visit Six Flags Over Georgia, Six Flags Great Adventure, or Six Flags Great America, Superman always seems to have one of the longest lines in the park. This coaster regularly has hour-long waits between its popularity and capacity. Hitting this coaster early in the day is a wise decision. Otherwise, the Flash Pass is a major help for this coaster. Great America had a single rider line for this coaster that saved a boatload of time, but I believe it was discontinued after the COVID-19 pandemic. Operations for this coaster are typically slow. This is common with all the B&M flyers, especially since the trains need to raise and lower in the station itself. I find the operations to be particularly glacial in Over Georgia because the employees often need to manually unlock the restraints with a key. I can't recall seeing this on any other B&M flyer. The harnesses are comprised of an over-the-shoulder restraint that tightly hugs your chest, plus ankle restraints. They need to be snug given the dynamics of the ride, but I find them comfortable all things considered. As for seat selection, I don't have too much of a preference on Superman. The forces feel identical across the train. The view is marginally better up front, so that's my row of choice as long as it doesn't have a massive additional weight. Once dispatched, you turn out of the station and ascend the 106-foot or 32-meter tall lift hill. The lift doesn't offer the best views due to the riding position, but it does emphasize the ride's height as the gap between you and the ground just keeps on growing. Once at the top, you navigate a 100-foot or 30-meter tall twisting drop. This drop is pretty shallow, even by B&M standards, so it doesn't deliver much in the force or whip department. The pullout does have some decent speed though, and positive Gs, and it's just the appetizer for what's to come. The second element is the pretzel loop, which is the signature element on any B&M flyer. Think of it as an upside-down vertical loop. You start and finish at the top of the inversion, and you invert at the bottom. This element is downright insane, and it's one of the best in the world for sustained positive Gs. It's also super disorienting. Diving towards the ground while going backwards and lying on your back while experiencing crazy forces is an unnatural feeling, but I love it. I just wish the rest of Superman could match this level of intensity. And fun fact, Superman doesn't reach its top speed at the bottom of the first drop. Rather, it reaches its max speed of 51 miles per hour or 82 kilometers per hour at the bottom of the pretzel loop because it goes below ground level. The rest of Superman is far tamer. You then navigate 3 consecutive overbanks. These turns aren't the least bit forceful. They're mostly about the visuals. They work really well in Over Georgia's because you're hugging the hillside, accentuating the ride's speed. And you even dive into a tunnel at one point. On the other clones, you're just turning high above the queue line. The finale starts with a 270-degree upwards helix. It is similarly tame like the prior turns, but it leads into a slow inline twist. This inversion sneaks up on you because it continues out of the helix, and it offers some nice hang time. You then hop into the brake run, and this abrupt element gives a weak pop of airtime, which is always a weird feeling in that flying position. You then head back towards the station, and you pray the ride is either running just one train or ready to dispatch the next one. Otherwise, you'll be uncomfortably staring down at the brake run. It is the worst part of any B&M flyer without a doubt. So what would I rate Superman Ultimate Flight? I would give the version at Over Georgia a 7 out of 10, while the other two earn a 6 out of 10. I love the pretzel loop. The crushing forces are a thrill seeker's dream, and the final inversion is a wonderful contrast with all that hang time. But the middle section feels like filler. It just doesn't have much variety or force to it. The setting on Over Georgia's accentuates these turns at least, which is why that version earns an extra point. You can tell the ride was made for that terrain. While the pacing isn't all that good, Superman is ultra smooth, and it's about as comfortable as a flying coaster can be. I find B&M's later flying coasters more dynamic and engaging, but Superman did help pave the way. So those are my thoughts on Superman Ultimate Flight, the B&M flying coasters at the Six Flags parks. What are your thoughts on this coaster? Let me know your thoughts on this coaster down in the comments, or if you've ridden Crystal Wing. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.